This is a bike we're going to try this morning. It's a 1974 Norton 850 Commando Mark II. I've not owned it right long. It's not one I've restored. I bought it as is. It's an American import. Anyway, we'll be off and see what we think of it. Right, we're away with it. Anybody who's watched my previous video, I know this is a bit of a comparison against the 750 Honda K5. It may be a little bit biased, as this is probably one of my most favourite bikes. If you listen to the story I told the other day, I'll quickly go through it. I went to buy a Velocet 500 Venom. I took it out for a test ride for a couple of hours. Decided it wasn't for me. And my mate had this study corner at garage, and I said I'd not had a ride on one, so he says, here, take that out for a couple of hours. Anyway, I took it out for a couple of hours, absolutely loved it, so I bought it. And I've got to admit, I love it. It's a real nice bike. I don't think it's quite as refined as the Honda. And when I say refined, it's a little bit more thought out, is Honda. The finishing touches are somewhat a little bit more. Well, some of the things on this, it really makes you wonder what they were thinking about when they come up with them. I mean, I'll whip through a few things which I think are really, well, I really don't know what they were thinking about when they thought about it. If you look, the ignition switch is down here. I mean, what a place for an ignition switch. And I think if you've got it in position 1, that's just the ordinary lights. Sorry, the ordinary ignition. When you put it into position 2, that's the ignition, but it enables you to use this switch to put the side lights or the headlights on. I mean, it just, to me, just defies logic. I mean, it works, there's nothing wrong with it, it does work, but what were they thinking of? The switch gear is another thing which I just can't. I suppose they'd no money and they couldn't afford to design no switch gear for it. Or couldn't get Lucas to design some switch gear for it. I mean, the Mark III got the new switch gear. I haven't ridden the Mark III, so I don't know how good that switch gear is. I forever struggle with the indicators on this bike. I just cannot get it into my head. Up for right, down for left. Now that might seem stupid to some people, but my brain just doesn't seem to be able to comprehend that bit. We're up at the top gear on that. 3000 revs at about 55 mile an hour. This side should be the indicator, but I swapped it to this hand. I thought it was easier on this hand because it's nearer to twist grip rubber, and on this hand, because at throttle it's a bit further away. So I think it's quite a common thing for people to do, to move them onto that side. The other thing I don't like is the side stand. It's so long and so far forward. When you push it forward with your foot or try to swing it out with your foot, the sweep of your leg is not big enough to push the stand to its full forward position, so you have to push it like half the way out and then just get a kick to make it go all the way out. If I think of when I stop, I'll show you what I mean about that. That's the three. No, there's one more. The filler and dipstick for the oil tank is under the seat, so if you want to check the oil, you've got the seat to take off. Now, unlike the Mark 3s, the Mark 3s were on an hinge system, so you could tip it up. These are not on an hinge system. You have to undo two big nuts above the shock absorbers, two hand nuts, and then slide the seat completely off to check the oil, which, to be quite honest, defies a bit of logic. But anyway, they're small things really. I mean, this bike doesn't use any oil, so I don't have to worry about it so much. Right, we're talking about comparisons. The switch gear's definitely better on the Honda, much better. The side stand's better on the Honda. Main stand, same sort of thing, that's alright. It's just something to note really. Motor on this, I don't think the Honda's any faster. They're just chalk and cheese, they're not even the same thing. This bike's loads of low down grunt, pulls right out of the bottom. It's only a 4-speed box, so you know, it's just a different engine. Vibration wise, I don't think there's much in them. This has got a bit of vibration at about, I don't know, can't think what it is, 2.5, 3,000 revs, a little bit. But at 70 mile an hour, it's just as smooth as 750 Honda. I would think you'd probably cruise one of these at 80 mile an hour. That'd be as fast as I wanted to cruise one. I'd be more happy at 70, 75-ish. I mean, Honda, you cruise that thing at 80, 90 mile an hour and not even think about it. Fuel consumption, I think there ain't much difference between them. What else can I say? When I first remember the Commandos winning the bike of the year, and they won it for something like 5 years hot trot, of at top at 750 Honda, it's hard to understand why until you actually have a go on one, because they are an incredibly black. They're lighter than Honda, and I think they're probably better handling than Honda. I mean, you probably need somebody a lot better than me to push limits out of either of them, but this just feels a bit more controlled in corners than Honda. The warning lights on the headlight, that's another one of them things you can understand, but if you've had British bikes, you wouldn't even think about them. It's just, unfortunately, the one for the indicator, it doesn't have a shroud around it, so you can't see it very well in sunlight, so you've always got to look at the switch and make sure it's cancelled. I've got to admit, I love the sound of these Commandos. They sound beautiful. They're just, everything about them's good. Oh, I think so. And as I said, I'm a little biased, so I recently changed the iso-elastics in this, and I'm running them a little bit on slack side. I think I've left 15 thou in them, and I believe manual says leave 10 or something like that in them. I can't just remember off the top of my head, but I left them on slack side because, as I understand it, and I could be corrected here, if you leave them a little bit slack, you feel less vibration. If you keep them a little bit taut or tighter, the handling's a little better. Now, I never use limits at handling on this, so I'm more than happy to have a little bit less vibration. Because although I say you don't feel any vibration, obviously the motor's rubber mounted, I mean, when you watch them ticking over, you watch the front wheel just shimmying backwards and forwards. Reminds me somewhat of an Harley, or the old R90s and such as that, where they used to rock from side to side. Well, these just rock backwards and forwards. Because I've been riding it on, I'm having to remember which way round gears is. Believe it or not, the side to side doesn't seem to bother me as much as the one up, the rest down, and the one down and the rest up. I mean, this is typical of British bikes, you know, one up and the rest down. And when I say typical of British bikes, that's not Triumphs. Triumphs were always the other way around. One down, the rest up, same as the Japanese, although we were on the other side. When I was saying earlier, this is an unrestored bike. The clock's actually got 1,414 miles. Now, when I bought it, I can't remember what it got, about 9,000 miles or something, and I've only had it, I don't know, maybe a year, something like that. I can't put many miles on any of my bikes. I have quite a few bikes, and I insure as a group policy, and every bike has 1,000 miles on it. So when this bike gets its 1,000 miles on, it'll get pushed into back at garage, and I shall use another bike while I get 1,000 miles on that, and that's how I go on until I've been through most of the bikes. It's sort of like well, it forces me to use them. I mean, some of the bikes what I'm maybe not so struck on, if all other bikes get close to 1,000 miles, then I have to start riding them, and it means that you have to use them. I mean, I've got an old CSR which I got from my father, and I haven't used that for a while, so maybe to keep the miles down on these and up on that, I shall have to use that for a bit. You know, and it's one of them, it's not really what you call an inspiring bike, but when you start riding it, you realise it really is a nice bike. Right, I'll say a little bit more about these. I was always a Triumph man, always liked Triumphs, particularly the Bonnevilles, and I never ridden the Commando until I got this one, and to be quite honest, I now think the Commando is probably better than the Bonneville. Well, in my opinion, it's better than the Bonneville. Different bike, but that same sort of British bike characteristics as this. I mean, I know it's a bigger engine, it's 200 cc's bigger than Bonneville, but I don't know. Bonneville, I've always liked it. Best way I can put it is this way. If I had to sell bikes and get rid of bikes, I would keep my Vincent, I would keep this, and I would sell the Bonneville. So, and I would keep my CSR. I mean, that's probably a little bit not, you know, because that was my dad's, but it's not as fast as Bonneville by any means of imagination, but it's smooth. I never actually do a thing at it. The Bonneville, I always seem to be tinkering about with it. And the Matchless, I park it up every year, clean the points, clean the pulse, change the oil, that sort of stuff, and then never touch it again, you know, obviously polish it. And then the following year I just get it out, it starts, and I ride it for a year. Then at the end of the year it goes back through the same routine, polish, service, back at corner at garage, and out the following year. It's quite a good bike. I just love this. You get it in top gear and you just, I mean, throttle. You know, I haven't twisted throttle eighth of an inch off stop. That's all I'm messing about with. It has developed a small leak on front at cylinder head, so really could do with head to come off and gaskets to change. But it's not really bad enough for me to consider that yet. It's an absolutely lovely day today. Apparently we're going to get a bit of rain by dinner time, but that's why I thought I'd make early morning rush. Well, when I say early morning, early for me. I don't think there's much difference between braking on this bike or on the rear brakes is comparable, front brakes equally as wooden. I mean, it does stop, but you've got to give it a fair old tug. Apparently you can sleeve the master cylinders down, which makes them a lot better. I've thought about doing it, but I just ain't got round to it yet. I've had other toys to play with. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to sell a couple of bikes because I need room. I'd like to buy something different, so it's not that, you know, I necessarily need the money. It's space. I did change the handlebars on this to English bars because I didn't like the tall bars what were on the what's its name, when it was an American model. But the handlebars are much too tall for me. And this is what I was talking about on the stand, as far as I can push it. Right, I've had my cup of tea with my mates and we'll be off home now. See if we can get home before that rain comes. Another little thing about this bike, I got all tattled to put an interstate tank, side panels and seat on it because I didn't like the small petrol tank. Anyway, I nearly run it out of petrol a couple of times, and anyway, it turned out that somebody had put 2 reserve taps in it instead of a main tap and a reserve tap, so consequently if you got what would be the main tap on, you'd virtually, well, it would empty the fuel tank, so then when you switched it to reserve, there was no fuel in it. So that's why I ended up with the interstate tank. I thought, oh, I'll stick an interstate tank on it. I'm fed up with that malarkey. But anyway, it turns out that now I've got proper fuel taps in, it's not a problem. I mean, little 2.5 gallon tank will get you, I don't know, 100 mileage. Maybe a little bit more, I'm not so sure. To be quite honest, I never test it. I just fill it up when it's empty, and that's all it is. It's not like I ever go miles on it. I use it quite locally, you know. Anyway, within sort of 50 miles, just messing about. It certainly is a nice bike though. I don't know if there's a lot more I can tell you about it. It's one of them things, you either love them, hate them. You'd either prefer this or prefer Honda. I'm not sure there's one's a mile better than other or what, so it's one of them things, you spend your money and you take your pick. My missus has gone into Leeds with kids, so I'm on my own, pot down, please be saying what I do.